Harley-Davidson built its name on strength and pride, but behind the shine, certain models are sinking fast, dragging riders' wallets down with them. Could your motorcycle be next? Why didn't anyone warn you? Keep watching, because the final reveal proves no rider is safe, no matter what they ride. Number 7. Harley-Davidson Sportster 1200 SuperLow. Dealers love a sure thing, but some machines promise confidence and deliver compromise, and that gap is where buyers walk away. If you have ever wanted a low, easy cruiser that still feels like a Harley, this one probably sat on your shortlist and then slipped off it. By the end, you will know who this bike suits and why many riders looked elsewhere. Power is not the problem here. The SuperLow makes about 67 horsepower from 1,202 cubic centimeters, with roughly 70.8 pound-feet pulling from down low. Throttle response is friendly rather than fierce, making it easy to modulate through slow traffic and tight U-turns. Real control matters more than paper numbers. Stopping is handled by front and rear disc brakes with an anti-lock braking system that steps in smoothly when the surface turns sketchy. Lever feel is firm enough for confident stops without a sudden bite. Comfort should seal the deal, yet the ride tells another story. The suspension uses a straightforward telescopic fork up front and dual shocks out back, a simple setup that works on smooth roads but turns harsh when the pavement breaks apart. Preload helps with a passenger, but travel is short and bottoms come early. Weight is where expectations begin to sag. At roughly 604 pounds in running order, the SuperLow carries more heft than the name suggests, and that mass shows up in parking lots and slow corners. Once rolling, the bulk hides, yet it returns when you feather the clutch uphill or tip onto a gravelly shoulder. Confidence at a standstill is strong. The seat height sits around 27.7 inches unladen, letting many riders put both boots flat and feel planted when traffic stacks up. Short inseams appreciate the narrow seat nose. Price always decides the final handshake. The starting price landed around $12,599, right where shoppers start cross-shopping other cruisers and some lightly used tourers. At that money, riders can compare mid-range competitors with better stock suspension or look at larger Harleys with real highway legs. The design looks right from 20 feet, with clean lines and familiar proportions. Step closer, and the trim pieces and basic suspension tuning make the package feel more entry-level than its price signals. Identity is the second hurdle. Riders who want a stripped canvas to customize often walk to other Sportster trims with deeper aftermarket support. Those who want long-distance comfort tend to jump to bigger saddles, more suspension travel, and wind protection. The SuperLow ends up between those camps, good enough at many things without owning a lane. None of this makes it a bad motorcycle. It is approachable, reliable, and honest. For shorter riders who prize a planted stance and predictable controls, it fits. For seasoned riders who measure a day by the interstate exit count, it fades. If your rides are short, steady, and local, it delivers. For many, that trade-off ends it. From a bike criticized for being too plain, we move to one that chased a custom look so aggressively it sacrificed real-world comfort. Number 6. Harley-Davidson Softail Rocker C. Some numbers still turn heads. One oversized rear tire, one stretched silhouette, one big promise of custom swagger right out of the crate. Then the first ride tells a harder truth. If you value comfort, confidence, and control, this one tests your patience and your back. If you ride real miles, your wallet notices every compromise. Stay with me, because by the end, you will know whether the Rocker C fits your road or belongs in someone else's garage. Power matters, but feel matters more. The engine displaces 1,584 cubic centimeters and makes approximately 70 horsepower, with about 92 pound-feet delivered low in the revs. It pulls clean from a stop and surges past city traffic without drama, the kind of shove that feels satisfying at half throttle. Stopping has to match the go. Braking is handled by a single front disc and a rear disc, with an anti-lock braking system available on later model years. Lever effort is firm and predictable. Panic stops demand a focused hand, but the safety net is there when pavement turns slick or gravel shows up mid-corner. Ride quality decides whether a motorcycle becomes a friend or a wall ornament. The suspension uses a telescopic fork up front and twin under-chassis shocks out back to preserve the hardtail look. It nails the stance, but there is a price. Travel is short, damping feels basic, and broken pavement sends sharp messages through the bars and seat. Weight shapes everything you feel at slow speed. Wet weight lands around 710 pounds, and you notice it during U-turns, angled driveways, and every foot of parking lot practice. Once rolling, the mass settles, but tight maneuvers remind you who is in charge. Seat height tries to calm the nerves. The saddle sits near 26.8 inches, and that low number lets many riders plant boots flat at a light. Confidence rises, yet reach to the forward controls and the stretch to the bars can strain shoulders and lower backs over time. Price anchors expectations. The starting price sat near $19,995 when new, and that money should buy both presence and comfort. The Rocker C delivers presence in spades. The comfort takes more effort and more parts than many riders want to invest. Design is the hook. The long rake, the slammed fender, and the wide rear tire look like Saturday night on a showroom floor. Sunday morning reveals the trade-offs. Turn-in takes muscle, mid-corner adjustments resist persuasion, and long days punish wrists and spine. The pose is perfect. The pace is not. For the right rider, that is fine. If your miles are short, your roads are smooth, and your priority is attitude, the Rocker C scratches that itch with steel and chrome. If your calendar is full of state lines and mountain passes, the compromises grow louder with each hour. You will know where you stand the first time you try to hustle it through a tight clover leaf. After Harley's attempt at a showroom chopper, the focus shifted toward injecting sport performance into the lineup, an effort that proved just as controversial. If you're nodding along and recognizing these flaws, don't just watch. Join the ride. Hit subscribe now so you never miss the next breakdown of bikes dealers hope you forget. Drop a comment with your own Harley story. Your voice makes this community stronger, one rider at a time. Number 5. Harley-Davidson Street Rod. Every rider remembers the promise of a motorcycle that looked like it could change everything. The Street Rod arrived carrying that weight, billed as a sportier alternative to the street lineup, and marketed toward younger riders looking for a mix of cruiser attitude and urban agility. What many buyers discovered instead was a motorcycle that looked aggressive on paper, but fell short when measured by miles. At its core, the Street Rod carried a liquid-cooled engine displacing 749 cubic centimeters. Power reached close to 68 horsepower, with torque landing just above 47 pound-feet. The motor was tuned for sharper response than the standard street, and in city traffic the throttle delivered quick jumps from light to light. Braking was handled by twin discs up front and a single disc in the rear, paired with an anti-lock braking system. This provided reliable stopping power, especially when the weight of the bike and a short wheelbase demanded confident control in emergency situations. Suspension upgrades were one of the key selling points. The Street Rod used inverted front forks and piggyback rear shocks, a setup more familiar on sport bikes than cruisers. On smooth pavement, this design gave a solid connection to the road, but the tighter geometry and higher seat height revealed compromises that not all riders welcomed. Fully fueled, the motorcycle weighed about 516 pounds. That number kept it light for a Harley-Davidson, but the compact triangle of bars, pegs, and seat meant the mass did not always translate to easy handling. Low-speed maneuvering was manageable, yet longer rides amplified the sense that the chassis was working against the rider rather than with him. Seat height measured just under 31 inches, noticeably taller than the standard street. The change was meant to deliver clearance for cornering, but it also created cramped leg positions. Taller riders often complained of knees pushed awkwardly high, while shorter riders struggled to balance the added reach with the weight of the motorcycle. The starting price came in around $8,699, On the surface, that seemed competitive. In practice, it placed the street rod directly against proven performers like the Honda CB650, the Yamaha MT-07, and the Kawasaki Z650. Each rival offered lighter weight, more horsepower, and ergonomics refined over years of development. Against that competition, the street rod had little room to stand out. From a design standpoint, the motorcycle did succeed in turning heads. Drag-style handlebars, compact fenders, and sharper lines gave it a modern edge. The problem was that the feel behind the bars did not match the image parked at the curb. It carried neither the long-distance comfort of a cruiser nor the sharp precision of a true sport machine. The street rod ended up being a motorcycle caught between two worlds, and that middle ground never found a loyal audience. For riders who wanted a Harley badge with a dash of sport flavor, it offered a taste, but not the full meal. From cramped ergos to sharper tuning, Harley kept chasing performance dreams, yet the following model revealed how design ambition can stumble hard in execution. Before we get into the list, bikes may lose value, but good gear never does. I've linked my trusted helmets, jackets, gloves, and accessories in the description. Number 4. Harley-Davidson FXDR 114. One hard truth separates a poster bike from a partner on the road. Looks do not carry you through the miles. The Milwaukee 8 114 engine in the FXDR displaces 1,868 cubic centimeters and makes roughly 90 horsepower with about 119 pound-feet of torque, delivering a clean surge that feels strong from the first crack of the throttle. Stopping control matters when style brings mass. The braking system uses dual discs up front and a single disc in the rear, managed by an anti-lock braking system that steps in smoothly when surfaces turn unpredictable. Lever feel is firm and confidence-building rather than grabby. Ride quality decides whether you keep riding after lunch. The suspension equips an inverted front fork and a coil-over rear shock with external adjustment, combining modern hardware with a stiff overall stance. On smooth pavement, the feedback is positive. On broken roads, the sharp edges come through the seat and bars. Weight shapes every move at low speed. Wet weight sits around 668 pounds, and the long wheelbase plus the wide rear tire demand deliberate steering inputs. Once the pace steadies, the mass recedes, but parking lots and tight U-turns remind you what you are pushing. Confidence at a stop begins with reach. The seat height is about 27.7 inches, so most riders can plant both boots and hold the line on off-camber lights or sloped driveways. That planted feel helps new owners settle in quickly. Price sets expectations that the ride must meet. The starting price landed near $21,349 when new, placing the FXDR against better balanced options in the same family and against rivals that trade some stance for more comfort and range. Out on the street, the story is consistent. The FXDR launches hard, feeds big torques early, and looks every inch the muscle machine it intends to be. Then the posture asks for wrists and lower back, the wide rear resists quick transitions, and the firm tune taps your spine over patched asphalt. It is not a character flaw so much as a narrow mission. The FXDR is built to dominate the boulevard, light to light, photo to photo. If your riding is short, smooth, and local, the package can feel satisfying, even addictive, and the sound and shove deliver what the lines promise. But if your calendar is stacked with day-long loops, mountain switchbacks, or cross-county runs, the equation changes. You start counting fuel stops, stretching your shoulders at every turnout, and wishing for a seat and suspension with more travel and support. The motorcycle will get you there. It just asks more in return. For others, it simply asks too much too often. None of that erases the appeal for the right rider. The FXDR is a statement, a choice, and a clear signal about what you value when you roll out of the garage. If your priorities put presence above plush, it fits. After the drag strip styling of the FXDR, Harley gambled again, this time with a machine so different it divided loyalists and newcomers alike. Number 3. Harley-Davidson Fee Rod. Some motorcycles divide a crowd the moment they roll onto the lot. The V-Rod was one of those machines, a motorcycle that promised modern performance but ended up testing the loyalty of the Harley faithful. It was fast, it was different, and it was unlike anything the company had built before. For some riders, that made it exciting. For others, it made it unrecognizable. The engine was the centerpiece. Developed in partnership with Porsche, it displaced 1,245 cubic centimeters, producing about 125 horsepower. That number made the V-Rod one of the most powerful factory Harley-Davidson motorcycles of its era, a sharp break from the slow-revving, low-end focused engines that had built the company's reputation. Torque output reached close to 84 pound-feet, which was strong, but delivered higher in the rev range than traditional riders were accustomed to. Instead of a heavy pulse from the first twist, the power climbed as the tachometer rose, creating a sensation closer to a sport bike than a cruiser. For many, that character felt foreign. Braking matched the power with dual front discs and a single rear disc, all managed by an anti-lock braking system in later years. The hardware provided stopping strength that riders could trust, especially given the speed the motorcycle could build in short order. Suspension came from conventional forks up front and twin shocks in the rear, tuned for stability in straight-line blasts. Handling was steady when pointed forward, but the combination of long wheelbase, wide rear tire, and weight made tight corners a challenge. On the scale, the V-Rod carried a wet weight of more than 670 pounds. The bulk was not unmanageable once moving, but it added to the effort required when maneuvering in town or pulling the bike upright from its side stand. Seat height landed at around 26.7 inches. This low stance gave most riders the ability to place both feet flat on the ground, helping balance the heft at a stoplight. It was one of the features that made the motorcycle approachable despite its size and speed. The starting price hovered near $17,500. Positioned above some Softail and touring models, it asked riders to invest heavily in a machine that did not fit the brand's traditional mold. For those who wanted a Harley badge with muscle bike performance, it seemed reasonable. For others, it raised the question of whether the money could be better spent elsewhere. Design language carried equal weight to performance. The V-Rod's aluminum frame, scooped seat, and massive airbox cover gave it a futuristic profile. It was a sharp contrast to the classic silhouettes that defined the brand. Some riders embraced the bold look, while purists saw it as a departure from heritage. In the end, the V-Rod carved out a small but passionate following, especially among riders who wanted something faster and more aggressive than the norm. Yet for the majority, it was a motorcycle that lived between two worlds, never fully accepted in either. Once the V-Rod blurred Harley's identity, attention turned to conquering an entirely new segment, an arena where rivals already had decades of expertise. You've seen how quickly loyalty can fade when models miss the mark. Now it's your turn. Did one of these bikes surprise you? Share your thoughts below. And before you roll out, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Together, we keep the road honest for every rider. Number 2. Harley-Davidson Pan America 1250/1250 Special. Bold moves bring bold consequences. The Pan America was Harley-Davidson's gamble to enter the adventure touring world, a space dominated for decades by other brands. Riders who had always tied the name Harley-Davidson to heavy cruisers and long-haul touring machines suddenly found the company unveiling a tall, high-tech, dirt-capable motorcycle. The shock was real, the expectations were enormous, and the first impressions were mixed. Power comes from the Revolution Max engine, a liquid-cooled unit displacing 1,252 cubic centimeters. It produces about 150 horsepower, a figure that instantly placed the motorcycle among the most powerful in its class. From low speeds up through highway roll-ons, the delivery of that power was direct and smooth, a characteristic that made it accessible to riders who had never experienced this type of Harley-Davidson before. Torque output reaches roughly 94 pound-feet. The curve is broad, ensuring a confident pull through the mid-range and plenty of thrust when overtaking on highways or climbing steep grades. For an adventure touring motorcycle, having torque available across the band is essential, and the Pan America delivered on that promise. Stopping power is equally important. Dual front discs paired with a single rear disc and an anti-lock braking system gave riders the confidence to brake hard when conditions demanded. Whether on gravel, pavement, or wet surfaces, the setup provided stability and predictable feedback through the levers. Suspension design brought modern technology to the table. The motorcycle used an inverted front fork and a rear monoshock, both offering long travel for rough roads and trails. On the special trim, electronic adjustment allowed the rider to change settings on the fly. The standout feature was adaptive ride height, a system that lowered the seat at a stop and returned it to full clearance once moving. A breakthrough for shorter riders who wanted the capability of an adventure touring motorcycle without giving up confidence at traffic lights. Weight remained a point of discussion. Depending on trim, wet weight came in at about 560 pounds. While lighter than some heavyweight touring Harleys, it was still a serious machine to manage on dirt or sand. Once rolling, the balance was commendable, but at a crawl, the mass demanded respect and strong technique. Seat height without adaptive systems measured from about 31 inches to 34.5 inches. With adaptive ride height engaged, that figure could temporarily dip closer to 30 inches, making the motorcycle feel far more approachable when stopped. The ability to offer such range made the Pan America stand out among competitors. Price set the stage for buyer expectations. The base model started near $19,000, while the special trim reached into the low $20,000s. At those levels, riders measured every feature against industry leaders, weighing Harley-Davidson's fresh attempt against proven adventure touring machines with decades of refinement. The Pan America succeeded in showing that Harley-Davidson could innovate, yet it also revealed the challenges of stepping into a new segment. Some riders embraced it as a versatile, powerful, and comfortable long hauler with genuine off-pavement skill. Others found the early quirks and sheer size difficult to justify. From tackling dirt and highways with the Pan America, Harley's story ends with a machine aimed at pure luxury, yet its towering price tested even the most loyal riders. Number 1. Harley-Davidson CVO Street Glide. One big price, one bigger promise, and a name that carries real weight. The CVO Street Glide steps onto the stage as the luxury bagger that gives you everything from the factory. If you ride a touring motorcycle and you care about comfort, torque, and pride, this one speaks to your wallet. By the end, you will know whether the CVO Street Glide earns a place in your garage or a long look on showroom floor. At the center is the Milwaukee 8121, tuned for smooth shove and long legs. The engine displaces about 1,984 cubic centimeters and makes roughly 115 horsepower, giving the motorcycle urgent roll-on response without turning the ride harsh or frantic when the road stretches ahead. Torque is the headline number that matters on a heavy bagger. The motor delivers about 139 pound-feet, and it arrives early enough to pull clean from low speeds, pass with authority, and stay relaxed at highway pace. That broad curve lets the CVO Street Glide feel unbothered two-up with luggage. Control starts with serious stoppers. The braking system uses dual front discs and a single rear disc, managed by a cornering anti-lock braking system. Lever feel is strong and progressive, and the rear pedal is easy to modulate so low-speed maneuvers stay tidy even on crowned or dusty pavement. Ride quality is where luxury should show up. The suspension equips an inverted front fork that holds a clean line under braking, paired with a rear shock that offers hydraulic preload and adjustable damping. The result is poise on sweepers, composure over patched asphalt, and less wallow when you lean, brake, and accelerate in one motion. Weight always tells the truth. Wet weight sits around 838 pounds, and you feel it while backing out of the garage or easing through parking lots. Once moving, balance settles in. The chassis tracks straight, and the mass fades into the background until the road tightens or the grade steepens. Confidence at a stop comes from reach. The seat height is about 26.7 inches, which lets many riders plant both boots and keep hips square on uneven intersections. That planted stance matters when crosswinds shove, a camber changes mid-block, or a passenger climbs aboard. Price sets expectations before a key turns. The starting price lands around $43,000 depending on paint and equipment, and that kind of money demands a complete package. Fit and finish are rich. The paint looks deep even in shade, and the lighting and electronics feel integrated rather than tacked on. On the road, the experience is calm, quick, and composed. The CVO Street Glide carries speed without strain, shrugs off long days, and lets you hear music and wind without a fight. If your riding life is measured in state lines and seasons, this motorcycle has the stamina and the polish to go the distance. Every motorcycle tells a story, some of glory, others of lessons learned. Today's list proved even Harley-Davidson can miss the mark, and those choices ripple into riders' wallets, rides, and pride. But the conversation doesn't end here. Which bike shocked you most? Which one do you still defend? Drop your thoughts below. Hit subscribe to ride with us into the next deep dive. Until then, stay sharp, ride safe, and keep the legend alive on your own terms.